The current crisis within the Syro Malabar Church is not merely a dispute over a liturgical rubric, it is a reflection of a deeper issue: intolerance toward dissenting voices. The so-called spiritual leaders and self-proclaimed defenders of the Church seem remarkably unwilling to engage in meaningful dialogue. Instead of addressing concerns with pastoral sensitivity, they dismiss those who disagree as a cancer that must be removed. Such an approach is reminiscent of imperial rule, more akin to the authoritarianism of Alexander or Emperor Nero than the spirit of Christ. Ironically, while these individuals claim to be the true guardians of the Church, their actions betray the very essence of the gospel: compassion, humility, and openness to truth. True love for the Church does not seek to silence differing perspectives but rather embraces dialogue in the spirit of Jesus Christ. Fear of truth, the reason behind the suppression. The fundamental question arises: why do Church leaders fear dissenting voices? The answer is simple. They know that the leadership has failed to engage in genuine dialogue and that their decisions, marked by deception and manipulation, cannot withstand honest scrutiny. The decision to impose a uniform mode of celebrating the Syro-Malabar Mass was not the result of true consensus but was instead a product of coercion and misinformation. Even within the Synod, 16 bishops who dissented were silenced. The unwillingness of the bishops to engage in open discussion is a clear indication that they are aware of the fraudulent nature of their actions. Publicly available documents expose the inconsistencies and contradictions in their justifications. The only argument presented in defense of the decision is the claim that a numerical majority of dioceses accepted it. However, this argument is devoid of truth. Many of these dioceses exist only nominally, with minimal presence and membership. Moreover, larger dioceses that initially opposed the decision were pressured into compliance through questionable means. The strongest evidence of this mass silencing comes from the synodal bishops themselves, who acknowledged that revising their decision could lead many dioceses to demand the restoration of Mass facing the people. This admission confirms that the so-called unified decision was never truly embraced but was instead imposed through force and deception. The attempt to excommunicate dissenters. Faced with growing resistance, Church authorities have sought to excommunicate dissenters. But why this extreme measure? Because voices that carry the weight of truth are an unrelenting challenge to their authority. The continued presence of dissenters prevents them from governing unchecked and exposes their moral failures, both within the Church and in the secular world. Instead of correcting their mistakes or addressing valid concerns, Church leaders have chosen the easier path, eliminating those who challenge them. By removing dissenters, they can rewrite history in their favor, vilify those who oppose them, and suppress any future resistance. More dangerously, by instilling fear of excommunication and defamation, they seek to silence opposition completely, creating an environment where blind obedience is rewarded while truth is punished. Why the attempt at excommunication failed. Despite the Syro-Malabar Synod's dramatic declaration of leti sententiae, automatic excommunication on June 19, 2024, for those who refuse to comply with a mere liturgical rubric, they have failed to enforce it. There are two key reasons for this failure. 1. Lack of legal standing. Automatic excommunication has no legal validity within the Indian Church. If challenged in either ecclesiastical or civil courts, Church leaders would be forced to confront the truth and acknowledge the fraudulent nature of their actions. 2. Non-doctrinal nature of the dispute. The matter at hand is not a fundamental issue of faith or morality but a liturgical rubric, one already practiced in 98% of Catholic churches worldwide. However, members of the Synod manipulated the situation, using the Pope's name to escalate a mere liturgical disagreement into a question of church communion. At its core, however, this remains a matter of pastoral adaptation, fully aligned with the spirit of the Second Vatican Council. Recognizing their inability to impose excommunication, Church leaders have resorted to alternative forms of persecution. Priests have been suspended, compromised individuals have been appointed as pastors to harass the faithful, and media and political alliances have been weaponized to shame and intimidate dissenters. However, the faithful and clergy of the Archdiocese of Ernakulam-Angamaly are no longer blind to these unjust tactics. They stand firm against this oppressive campaign, refusing to yield to intimidation. The truth, embrace dialogue, and restore justice within the Syro Malabar Church. A just path forward. The faithful of the Archdiocese of Ernakulam-Angamaly firmly believe that, within the next 3 to 4 decades, the entire Syro Malabar Church will naturally embrace Mass facing the people as the standard mode of celebration. This conviction is rooted in the historical trajectory set forth by the Holy Spirit through the Second Vatican Council. Rather than imposing their perspective on others, they trust that time will bring about this transformation organically. However, the Archdiocese cannot accept a fraudulent decision that disregards its rich spiritual, pastoral, and theological heritage. They refuse to abandon this deeply rooted liturgical tradition merely to uphold the false prestige of the Syro Malabar Bishops' Synod. Their request is both reasonable and just, to recognize Mass facing the people as a legitimate liturgical variant, applicable exclusively within the Archdiocese, while still remaining an integral part of the Syro Malabar communion of dioceses. If the Syro Malabar bishops find it impossible to respect the distinct liturgical identity and legitimate voice of the Archdiocese, then an alternative solution must be considered. One viable path is to designate the Archdiocese of Ernakulam-Angamaly as a metropolitan church within the Catholic Communion, allowing it to maintain its unique liturgical expression while preserving unity in diversity. Both solutions, granting a liturgical variant or restructuring the Archdiocese as a metropolitan church, fall within the authority of the Bishops' Synod and provide a pathway for peaceful resolution. Rome has already clarified that the only obstacle to granting a liturgical variant is the 2021 synodal decision, which imposed a uniform liturgical practice across all dioceses. If the Synod were to reconsider its stance in light of the pastoral and spiritual realities of the Archdiocese, no external decision-making body would oppose it. However, the reluctance of the bishops to embrace such a spirit-led resolution raises concerns about their openness to the guidance of the Holy Spirit and their commitment to genuine pastoral discernment. Conclusion. The faithful of the Archdiocese remain hopeful that wisdom, justice, and true synodality will ultimately prevail. The path forward is not one of forceful imposition but of listening, discernment, and respect for the legitimate spiritual identity of the Archdiocese. The time has come for the Church leadership to recognize the truth, embrace dialogue, and restore justice within the Syro Malabar Church.